So Robert's question is, he'd like to be able to detect when we get 3 higher highs in a row, regardless of the bar direction. All right, so we can see the last bar here was actually a down bar, but the high of that bar was still higher than the previous 2 bars. All right, so apparently Robert was trying to use the bar direction solver to do this, but the bar direction solver, really, it's not looking at the high of the bars, it's only looking at the bar direction. Yeah, so the bar direction solver would not do that. And let's see, yeah, the comparison solver can do that, right? So we can have the comparison solver look at just the highs and have the comparison solver look at just the lows. So here's actually the opposite of 3 higher highs. So right here we have 3 lower lows with different bar directions. All right, so we have 3 lower lows regardless of the bar direction. Let's see. So yeah, there's a couple of ways we can do that. Let's see. NinjaTrader has an indicator built in. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Let's see. It's not that one. Yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure that Ninja has an indicator that will, I think, detect the highest, or something like look at the last number of bars. Oh, there we go. And bars up. Let's see if this is the one. Oh, no, actually, N bars down and N bars up is the same as the bar direction solver. So, no, okay. So we won't use that indicator. We'll just do it in BloodHound here. All right. So, for anybody new in the room here, I do already have BloodHound on my chart, so we can see it down below here. So when there's nothing in BloodHound, when BloodHound is a blank slate, sort of, you can see that it just kind of gives you a continuous long and short output like that. So, and also you see up here on the chart that BloodHound's going to say that it has an empty template, right? Because nothing is defined in BloodHound yet. So BloodHound's not doing anything. All right, so if we click this button here, it's going to open up BloodHound. And the first thing you'll want to do is give your system a name, right? Create a file name so that BloodHound can save your work to that file. And I'm just gonna use last week's BloodHound file and just change the date on that file name. Okay, so now, right, we've got a file name here that BloodHound can save all your work back to. And I'm going to switch over to the Logic tab and start working in a new Logic template here. Alright, so let's see. We'll call this 3 higher highs and 3 lower lows. So the way we're going to do this is use the comparison solver. So I'm going to connect this solver up right away. Alright, so when you're building something, there's a big advantage to just connecting your solver up right away, because BloodHound is designed to show you your work in real time. So so as you're setting up this solver, you can actually see if you have all these settings set up the way that you want them or the way that you expect them when you're building your various conditions. So since we're looking at the high price of the bar or the low price of the bar, we're going to start working with the price. So we're going to set type to price. And same down here in indicator B. Right? So we're going to work with price. All right. So indicator A is going to be the most recent price bar. All right. So let's just slide this all the way over to the right edge here. Okay. So this is going to be indicator A is going to look at this high price, and indicator B is going to look at this high price, right? So it's going to look at the price one bar back. All right. So I take it Robert probably wants a long signal when we get 3 higher highs. So I'm going to set this price type for the long output to the high, and for the short output I'm going to set that to the low price. So what I'm going to do is when we get these 3 higher highs, I'm going to generate a long output, and when we get these 3 lower lows, we'll generate a short output. Alright, so that's why the price type long is using the high price, because I'm going to generate a long output when we get 3 higher highs, right? And so we're going to generate a short output using the low prices when we get 3 lower lows. And let me switch that back. Okay, and so I have to do the same thing for indicator B. So we'll set that to the high. We'll set that to the low. Now indicator B, if you remember, indicator B needs to look 1 bar back. Right, so we're looking back to the second bar. So what we're going to do is we're going to change our look back to 2, like so. And that's all we have to do. So we're gonna leave this at single value. So okay, so that's part of it, and so we can see that we're already starting to get some results here. So for example, let me pull up an arrow here, a little drawing tool. So we can see we have a low here, and then we got a lower low right there, and we got a short output, right? And then we had a high, and then we had a higher high, and we have a long output, right? So right now this is working just looking at 2 bars, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to add another solver so that we can look at the previous 2 bars. So it's going to take one comparison solver is going to look at the 2 most recent highs, and then we're going to have a second comparison solver that's going to look back at the second and third highs, or the second and third bars back. And so that's how we can, and we're going to daisy chain these comparison solvers together, and that's how we can look at three bars, at the last 3 bars, to see if the last 3 bars has higher highs, or if the last 3 bars has lower lows. So, alright, so this is set up, and let me give this a name before I move on. Let's see, alright, so we're looking at a alright, so we got 2 bars with higher highs or lower lows. Alright, we got that one. So let's grab another comparison solver. Connect that up. Alright, so this one's going to be looking at the previous 2 bars of a higher high and a lower low. Alright, so once again, right, I'm going to set this solver up almost identical to the previous one. So just give me a moment while I set this up. All right. Now this solver here is supposed to be looking at these two bars back here. All right, so this first solver that I built is basically looking at these two bars, right? And so now we need to look at the previous two bars. So really, all I need to do is just change my look back period. Just change that to 2. Right? So changing that to 2 means it's looking at this bar back here. Right? And then if I go down to here and change this to 3, that, oops, sorry, I accidentally, yeah, keep in mind, keep in mind of which solvers you actually have selected when you're looking at stuff. Because I had this selected here, and I accidentally changed the settings on it as I was trying to explain things to you guys. So let me set this one back appropriately. All right, so let me kind of recap. So the first solver here, right, we have a look back period of 1. So it's looking at the most current bar here, right? So it's looking at the most recent bar here. And then down here, the look back period of 2 is looking back 1 bar. All right. So now with this solver, as I said earlier, it's going to be looking at these 2 bars. So to look at this middle bar, right, we need to set our look back period to 2, like so. And then indicator B is going to look back at the third bar, this third bar back. So we're going to change this to 3. Alright, so that's how we got this solver to look at the previous 2 bars. Is we just incremented our look back period by 1. Just incremented it up by 1. Alright, and so now both of these conditions have to be true at the same time in order to identify 3 up bars. So we now need to use an AND node to join these together like so. Alright, so let's take a look. Yeah. So we got 1, 2, 3 higher highs, and we got a long signal. And here we can see we got 3 higher highs. We got a long signal. And let's see. I'm kind of wondering why we got a short signal there. So let me take a look and see what's going on here. And probably I said, yep, I figured as much. Yeah, I had one of my prices set incorrectly. So let's switch that over to the low price. And bingo, there we go. So just, and now that low is gone. All right, so there we go. We got 3 lower lows. And yeah, actually, so let me put a little dot here. So we got our third, right, this is our third lower low right there. So it marked it with the short. All right. And we still have a third lower low, right? So this is always going to be looking back, and it's going to constantly give you a long or short output as long as, right, the system keeps making higher highs, or if it keeps making lower lows, right? So, if you want to, if you want to require, say, 4 lower lows or 4 higher highs in a row, all we had to do is just add another comparison solver and just keep incrementing the look back. Right? So I can take a shortcut here. I can copy this, just increment that to 3, increment that to 4, and let's see, I probably should name this something different. Let's see. Well, for the lack of imagination, I'll just put a 2 in front of this guy. All right. And so there's that new solver I just made. I can drop this on here, and if I connect this up, there we go. Now it requires 4 lower lows, or it requires 4 higher highs. Let's see. Yes, we got 1, 2, 3, and 4 higher highs. So, all right, I'm just going to leave that disconnected since Robert only asked for 3, and we'll just leave it like that. So, all right, there you go, Robert. Looks like, yeah, George is asking, what if I wanted to use a longer look back? For example, if you wanted to find 10 higher highs or 10 lower lows in a row. Yeah, he's asking, is the only solution to just create daisy chains? And yes, as far as BloodHound's concerned, yeah, you just create a daisy chain of that, right? So the comparison solver only looks at, when you're doing a comparison, you're only comparing two pieces of data, right? So piece of data 1 goes in the indicator A section here, right? And piece 2, right? Data number 2 goes in indicator B, right? So yeah, so within BloodHound you'd have to daisy chain stuff together. So I guess to maybe someone has a custom written indicator out there to do this, where you could kind of specify a period, and then the indicator could self-adjust, to look back the appropriate number of bars, but that's a very specific function, George. So an indicator would have to be written to do that, to only use one solver in BloodHound, right? So as a general rule, right, think of BloodHound as the glue that kind of takes all of your conditions or trading rules, that you're looking for. So, so typically, a trading system typically, I will say, has anywhere from like 6 to 10 rules, right? Or it's looking for 6 to 10 conditions to happen on your chart. So BloodHound basically glues all those conditions together, right? So the solvers are designed to look at each condition one at a time, and then glue them all together using AND nodes, OR nodes, various logic capabilities. But BloodHound really is not built to calculate specific tasks, right? So looking to see if we're making so many number of higher highs, that's a specific task that requires a specific kind of calculation or coding, so that requires a indicator to do specific tasks, right? And so BloodHound is not a infinite indicator to calculate whatever you want. BloodHound just glues your conditions together. So for the most part, BloodHound requires an indicator to do this very specific tasks, and then BloodHound can glue them together. So I hope that analogy made sense there, George. Yeah. So okay. So Gunther, your question regarding the line break pattern, a 3-line break pattern. No, I don't think this logic would apply to a 3-line break pattern. Um, so a line break pattern has a very specific logic in that, let's see, let me draw something here. So if you're wanting to find a line break pattern, in my understanding, a line break pattern, basically you would look back. If it's a 3-line break pattern, you would look back, you would look across the last 3 bars, and so if price is moving up, you would look back across the last 3 bars, and you would find the lowest low, and you would have to hold on to this value right here. You'd have to hold on to this price value that this arrow is on, and right, so the logic says, hold on to this this price value, and if price crosses that price value, then you would have a line break pattern, right? You would have, price would have broken the previous 3 lowest. Price would have crossed the lowest of the last 3 bars. So, right, so that requires an indicator to identify and more importantly hold on to the lowest value of the last 3 bars, right? So once again, so BloodHound doesn't hold on to price values, right? BloodHound requires indicators to feed the price values that you're looking for into BloodHound, right? So that's just as a moving average is basically returning a price value, right? So BloodHound requires indicators to return the price value, for your various logic that you're trying to do. So Gunther, to detect a 3-line break pattern would require, BloodHound would need a indicator that would return the lowest low point of your last 3 bars, and also, let's see, actually, you know what? And thinking this out loud, I think we can do that. There's so many indicators out there. Sometimes it's easy to overlook an indicator that can accomplish your task, but I think Chameleon can actually do that for you there, Gunther. So we can set our look back to 3, and so Chameleon will track the lowest low or the highest high for the last 3 bars. That's right. So let's take a look at this, and hold on a sec. I'm going to change. There we go. I'm going to change the way the plot style looks, so it's a little easier to comprehend. There we go. Yeah. All right. Let me clear the board of some clutter here. Let's get rid of these moving averages. All right. So looking right. So the red hash and the green hash, that's Chameleon, and it's tracking the low of the last 3 bars. Yeah. So if we're looking at the right edge of our chart, we can see that this bar here is the lowest low, and Chameleon is tracking that. So let's see if I'm just looking at the chart, trying to find a, a line break situation here. And I think I found one. Yeah. So right there, if we look at these three bars, let's scroll this over here. So we can see this, right? This red hash is identifying the lowest low of these last three bars, which is this bar right here, right? And then this bar broke it. Yeah, that bar broke it. And so we could use the comparison solver. We could compare the closing price of the bar back. We can compare it to this plot one bar back, right? Because you can see that chameleon's updating itself on every bar. So, the current bar, obviously the low moved down for the current bar. So we had to compare the current bar to to chameleon's red plot line one bar back. So let's see. Yeah. All right. So let's build that. All right. So we'll name this 3 line break pattern here. All right, let's put a comparison solver on here. Connect that up. All right, name this solver here. So we got a 3 line break pattern. All right, so all we need to do now is just plug in the data that we're comparing here, right? So the first thing that we're comparing, first piece of data that we look at is we're looking at the price bar, or the price of the bar. So we're looking at the closing price there. So let's change this to price, and it defaults to the closing price of the bar. All right, so the second piece of data that we're looking at is chameleon. All right, we're looking at chameleon, which is tracking the lows of the last 3 bars and the highs of the last 3 bars. So let's see. Actually, that's cool. It looks like I got both situations. So we've got a bar here that's breaking the low of the last 3, and we got a bar here that's breaking the high of the last 3. So there's our breaking of the low, and this bar broke the high of the last 3 bars, right? So we can see chameleon is plotting that green hash line, which is identifying the high of the last 3 bars here. All right, so we got the closing price set up in A, and now B is going to be chameleon, right? So once again, this kind of illustrates how, indicators are required to do the very specific kind of tasks and calculations, right? So tracking the highs and the lows of the last 3 bars, has to be done by an indicator. And then BloodHound can look for the condition. So, all right, so let's put in chameleon in here. And right, so we have chameleon set to a look back of 3. And let's see, so if the high plot, so we're using the high plot to generate a long signal here, right? So when the price bar breaks above the high plot, we want a long signal. And if the closing price of the bar breaks the low price, we want to generate a short signal like so. And All right, see there's nothing happening here. And why is that? Well, remember, we're looking back one bar to chameleon, right? So the way this solver is set up is we're looking at the closing price of the bar and comparing it to the plot of the current bar, but we need to compare it to the plot of the previous bar. So to do that, right, in indicator B for chameleon, we need to set our displacement to 1. And so that means we're looking at chameleon one bar back. And there we go. So, all right. Yep. So this isn't just identifying just the first break, it's identifying all breaks. Yeah, so we can see we have, as price keeps moving up, right, obviously it keeps breaking the high of the last 3 bars. So, yeah, and so in this downtrend, keep in mind that I set this solver up to look at the closing price of the bar. So that's why none of these are marked with a short signal, because we're looking at the closing price of the bar to actually break the low of the last 3 bars. So there we go. So like right here, right there, that's the closing price. At the tip of the arrow is the closing price of the bar, and it did break the last 3. But all back here, if you look, the closing price actually is not breaking the lows, the lowest lows. All right, so that's that one, and Gunter also has a slight alteration to kind of the same question here. Let's see. So Gunter's also asking regarding the 3 higher highs and lower lows. So he's looking for a 5% move. Let's see. Yeah, so Gunter, let me just kind of clarify here. All right, so let me I'll work with these bars here, because these bars are all making higher highs. So Gunter, when you're looking for a 5% difference between the highs, is it 5% from one high to the next high? Is that exactly what you're looking for? Yeah, actually, okay. I'm reading your question again. Okay, so Gunter's looking for a 5% move. Yeah, BloodHound doesn't calculate percentage. So, percentage is a mathematical calculation, which BloodHound doesn't do mathematical calculations. So, trying to think if there's something out there that does that. No, I don't know any indicator off the top of my head that would calculate a percentage move like that. Actually, I know, let's see, NinjaTrader has a rate of change, but yeah, that's a rate of change. That's not a percentage change. Oh, actually, well, they're claiming it is a percent change. Let's throw it on here and see what we get. And I'm going to remove some of these other indicators on here. Okay, so we have a rate of change. Let's see, I'm going to set the period. Let's see, can we set it to 1? Yeah, we'll see what 1 does. It might need to be set to 2. Alright, so now I have to figure out if, let's see, we have to figure out what this indicator is returning. Is it, let's see, so like up here, actually, let me scroll my chart back here. Okay. So the indicator is returning 0.11. So is that 11% or is that 11/10ths of a percent? No, I'm not sure what the indicator is returning. But let's see, let's pull up a calculator here and do some math. All right, math class is in session. All right, so let's take, so there's the price of the current bar, and all right, so that's a 5-cent move. All right, so divided by 5 cents, and oops, sorry. Let me reverse that. All right, so this indicator is returning a literal percent. Yeah, a literal percent. All right. So that is, so the indicator, so the indicator is returning 0.11. So that's 0.11%, not 11%. All right. Yeah. So, Gunter, yeah, it looks like we do have, or Ninja comes with an indicator that'll calculate that percent move. So let me try and figure out how to do that in BloodHound. So let's start a new one here. All right, so we're looking for a percent move in price. Yeah. I think all we need is just a threshold solver. So if we're looking for a minimum of 5%, let's see, this indicator is going to return 5 as 5%. Yeah. And it'll return a -5 if you have a -5% move. So we'll put -5 in there. All right, so there's our 5%. And now I just need to go put in the rate of change indicator. All right, so we're using a period of 1. Like so. And then we'll set our long output and our short output like so. All right, so if you're looking for a 5% move, you know, a 5% change to the upside, right? So then we want a long output when we get greater than 5, and opposite for the short output. So if this indicator returns a -5%, we want a short output when that indicator returns a -5 or less. So there it is. Now this is not going to work. 5% is way too high for a range bar. Let's see, what would we need? 5%. 5% is pretty high. I might have to adjust this down to 1%, but let's go to daily bars. And oh, bingo, there we go. So it works on a daily bar. Yeah, so we can see on a daily basis, we can see if price had moved more than 5%. Let's draw this. So I think, yeah, I think the indicator is going to be measuring from that point to that point, right? The close of yesterday to the close of the next day, right? So I'm drawing the arrows at the closing price of the bar. So that's what our rate of change is. I'm sure our rate of change is just looking at the closing prices, as most indicators do. So we can see from one close to another close, like so. You know, if you wanted to look at, say, if the highs made a 5% move, then all we need to do, let's see, well, actually, let me give this solver a name here. So we got a 5% see, closing price move. All right. So let's grab another threshold solver. And this one, we'll have it look at 5% high price move. All right, so we need to, to look at the high price move, all we need to do is we need to feed the high prices into our rate of change indicator. Right, so as a general rule, most indicators default to looking at the closing price of the bar. Right, so we just need to feed the high price into the bar. So let's see, let's go find our rate of change indicator. There's our rate of change, and we want a 1 period. All right, so now we need to feed the high price into the rate of change. So to do that, we can use Chameleon. So this is kind of what Chameleon was built for. It's one of its primary purposes is we can use this nested input, right? So now you can see Chameleon is now fed into the rate of change. You can even see that up here. We got rate of change, and SI Chameleon is what's being fed into it. So with Chameleon, we can use the high price to generate long signals, and we can feed the low price into Chameleon as well to generate short signals to see if the low price makes a 5% move. Like so. Alright, so now we just need to put in our 5%, like so. Alright. And I'm putting 5s in here twice, so it gives me a clean digital output. Alright, yeah, there we go. So yeah, if I take the second 5 out, like so, right, you can see now we get some kind of an analog output, right? We kind of get this varying output here, but most people just like seeing a nice clean digital type of an output, like so. That's why I put the 5 in there twice. Interesting. I'm just looking to see if there's any weird situations. I was thinking that looks like a 5% move, but not quite. So the rate of change indicator says it's only 4.5% move right there. Yeah, it kind of goes to show 5% is a pretty significant move. So, all right. So actually, this is not just the high. So this is actually the high or the low. All right, high or low, 5% high or low price move. There we go. I'll just rename that. So, all right. I think that takes care of Gunther's questions. Have a great one, and I hope to see you guys next week. All right. Bye-bye, guys.